handy thing to be able to do when you're trying to evaluate things. And unfortunately, we do have a bit of a cloudy day. It's a little easier to see down in cells when you got bright sunshine. Maybe the sun will break through here in a minute, but in the meantime, we're going to get rid of the bees. Just shake them off real quickly. All right. So now you can get to where you can hopefully see the larva a little better. And there's a bee emerging from a cell. See that baby bee being born right now? She just crawled out. Here comes a drone. That drone is chewing his way out right now.
And there's a larva just here.
These are big fat drone larvae right there. Okay, but what I really want you to see are the young larvae on this side. And when they're in that first instar larval stage, you really have to look hard to see the caterpillar, but you can see the pale blue fluid in this sector. Which,
oh yeah, I see reflecting off the light. Just the right light.
Yeah, you got to hold it, angle it, put it over your shoulder, try to get a little sunlight coming in, illuminating the bottom of the cell.
So I guess all those different colors of pollen.
Oh yeah.
I see. Depending on where the pollen came from, it has a different color.
Yeah, or it can. I mean,
yeah.
There's the drone larva.
A little white, there's a drone larva. Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch, you can see the heads, a bunch of heads kind of in the middle of it.
everybody okay with what we got going on there? So there's larvae of all stages, from young to older. So I'm going to continue to move through this hive, and in this top I'm going to show you what I'd do if I'm like looking for the queen. All right, we're gonna do a queen search up here, and I'll illustrate how one goes about that.
So there's not a, you can't guess whether she's going to normally be top or bottom or near the entrance or where.
Yeah, you can it's all a probability game, but as a practical matter, you never know where she's going to be. Right. She can be on the bottom board, she can be on the sidewall, she can be down in the feeder, you know. There's no guarantee that she's going to be where she ought to be. And here's the interesting thing that I have observed over and over again. The more you want to find the queen, the more you need to find the queen, the less likely she is to be where she's supposed to be.
To start where we were going to finish.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does pay to like look on that sidewall right when you pull the first comb out, particularly if you're trying to kill hive beetle. Well, get out of the way, bee. I can't mash the hive beetle if you're in the way. There it is. All right. Got it. Okay, so we've got honey there. Not a lot, but there's a little bit. There's very little on that side. So I've looked at the comb. All I need to look at it to see the queen. Okay, that's all you got to do. Just a quick scan, because what you're looking for is a shape. Okay, it's pattern recognition. It's not look at one bee and go, is that the queen? No. Is that the queen? No. You'll never find her if you do it that way.
Shape of
you just like put it back away from you and you scan that comb for her. Okay, I can see drones there quickly. Do you see the drones?
Right.
The big fat bees with the big eyes. Okay, but she's differently shaped than that. Okay, this has actually got better honey on it than the first comb that I pulled out. Are you done with that? Everybody's seen larvae now.
Yeah.
All right.
If she has a mark on her when you put her in there, how long will that mark stay on? Not very long.
Sometimes for years, and sometimes they'll chew it right off. It just depends on the bee. Some bees groom her so avidly that you know, they'll chew the paint off on her in not very long. Most of the time the paint will stay on for a while. All right, so I've moved the comb with honey over to the sidewall. This time of year, the way I'd like to see the colony arranged is a comb of honey on all the sidewalls and then brood in the middle, expanding outward over time. Okay, so that's a beautiful comb of sealed brood with honey around the margins. Do you see that? Both sides. So before it's all said and done, I'm going to ask you all to step up here and next time I get stung on the finger, I'm going to show you how to get rid of a stinger too. You know, it's important to know how to get rid of a stinger. You know, you scrape it off with your fingernail, your hive tool, rub it off on your pants. Don't tweeze it out, because if you do that, all you're doing is injecting yourself with the venom. It's in the venom sac, right?
Okay.
What are they doing here?
That's build down. They're building drone comb there because this colony's big and strong and it knows it's time to for the bee population to be expanding. They want to contribute to the gene pool, and they're raising papa bees. And if it's not a super strong colony, they'll kick them all out before wintertime comes. Now, you don't have to put up with them. You know, if you don't want the bill down, you can take it off, right? And you can see what a drone pupa looks like there. You can see another one right there that they're dragging off. See, they get purple eyes right before they emerge. See, they got honey there that they're sucking up. Whoops. Oh well. And more drone pupa. And we don't see a lot of varroa mites on those. So if this colony was loaded with varroa mites, you'd see varroa mites on drone pupa because they preferentially reproduce on the drone pupa. Why? Because drones take 24 days to develop. The varroa mite can raise lots of babies on a drone pupa. Bees, on the other hand, it's only 21 days from egg to adult, and they only have time for a shorter reproductive cycle before the bee emerges from the cell. All their reproductive events happen behind the cap, or right before the cap and behind the cap. One of the things my bees do is they chew out heavily infested brood. They're able to identify cells that have varroa mites in them. They uncap them, remove the brood early before the varroa mite can complete its reproductive cycle. And then they chew mites as well. Okay, so again, we're scanning for that queen. Haven't seen her yet, but again, do you see how the you can imagine that the queen's laying pattern on most combs is something like this. Start in the middle and then spiral outward, okay? And that's what we've got here, because the oldest brood is the sealed brood, right? And the younger brood's out here on the margins, all right?
At what point do they seal it? They lay the egg and it sits there open for a while? And then
Okay, so yeah, it's important to know the various phases of development that they go through and how long those are. So the egg is 3 days, okay? It's actually an embryo, not really an egg. It lasts 3 days, and then the larval stage lasts 6 days, which is twice the length of the embryo stage. And then to get to 21 days, the pupal stage is 12 days long, twice the larval stage, okay? So if you've got a queen that's raising brood all out, you're going to have roughly twice as many larvae as eggs, roughly twice as much seal brood as larvae. Okay?
Makes sense.
And that's roughly what we're seeing here, if you guys have been keeping track. All right, so again, we've looked for the queen. Have we seen her? I haven't seen her. Have you seen her? We're just going to keep on moving.
Is there a cycle that they follow as far as reproductive? Like, I mean, is there a time of year when there's more?
Yeah. In the springtime, that's when they really get booming and zooming. So once the first pollen starts coming in the springtime, the queen will start laying eggs. Okay?
So she takes a break during the winter more or less?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see her? She's
No,
on this
there.
comb.
With the blue on the top of her head.
Oh, there she is.
On the thorax.
Yep.
Thorax is painted.
Painted her.
Okay?
She's big.
And see, she's running around trying to make sure she's laid in all those cells. As you can tell, she's a really good queen. See how that laying pattern, she doesn't skip much, right? And adult bees are hatching out of this brood, and as fast as they're hatching out, she's laying right back in behind them.
Wow. She doesn't take a break.
Was that turquoise color your paint or part of her anatomy?
Yeah, that's something that we gave to her. That's not, she's not naturally endowed with that.
Okay.
Now, if you run across that,
Yeah,
let me know.
You'd like one?
I'd love to see that.
You can get some really weird mutants. So you can have drones with chartreuse eyes. You can have drones with red eyes. You can have drones that have white eyes.
Something I just read the last couple of days that I thought was so interesting, because you say a mated queen, she only has to mate once, and then she can just lay
Well,
eggs.
no, that's not true.
That's not true. Well,
She only flies out on 1 or 2 mating bouts. But on those mating bouts, she's going to encounter many different drones. She's going to mate with many different drones and store the semen, as many as 20. usually at least 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Average is somewhere like 15 or something, 12 to 15. And that's a phenomenal thing to observe if you ever get a chance. If you were walking around your bee yard one day and you notice that drones are falling out of the sky, well, look overhead. Because there's probably a queen mating up above you. And when that happens, the drones are just like a little comet behind her. I mean, they're like, she's flying through the air and there's a whole stream of them just all behind her. Because they mate in the air while they're flying. And the drones are upside down and backwards. So,
are the resulting offspring, are the offspring from a mix of all the drones, or is it just one that has a lucky one? Are they all the same anyway?
No, they're almost certainly not all the same unless you have artificially inseminated the queen or you're raising that queen in an environment where there's only one colony that's producing drones.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a real question about whether the extent to which semen is thoroughly admixed in the spermatheca, whether she uses the last in first out sort of principle. All that's still open to debate to some extent.
That was my question.
So we take your bees home,
Mm-hmm.
put them in our hive, and the queen flies off.
Nope, she's
Nope.
already mated.
Okay. So she's not going to mate with any of the bees that are already at my house.
Some of her progeny might.
Okay.
If your colony lives long enough that they raise a supersedure queen, which is a natural, progression. She gets old, the colony recognizes it, they raise a queen cell, that virgin queen emerges.